This podcast has been brought to you by Seeker's Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Help us spread the light of prophetic guidance to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Make a small donation at seekersguidance.org/donate. For as little as $10 a month, you can help people find life-changing guidance.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Welcome to our spiritual guidance podcast, in which we're looking at this wonderful work called Spirituality for Warriors. And in the previous session, we looked at 5 essential practices to make one's spiritual journey to Allah happen, namely seeking knowledge to fulfill the command, keeping the company of the scholars of the spiritual path, and one's brethren in order to gain and sustain one's spiritual consciousness. Thirdly, to leave dispensations and far-fetched religious interpretations in order to be guarded in one's religious practice. Fourthly, to take care of one's times and to tie them down to having spiritual routines in order to have presence with Allah and to cultivate presence. And fifthly, to be wary of one's lower self in all things so that one can leave whim, hawa, and to be safe from stumbling. Now, these are wonderful practices, but each of these 5 have potential harms. And that's what we will look at today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So he says, فطلب العلم آفته صحبة الأحداث سنا أو عقلا أو دينا فما لا يرجع إلى أصل ولا قاعدة. He says the danger in seeking knowledge is to keep the company of the immature, whether in age or intellect or religion. And the immature, he says, are those who don't base their practice on principles. Right? So this is an important caution, right? That seeking knowledge is a wonderful thing, right? And it helps one fulfill the divine command and turn to Allah. But one has to be careful about the company one keeps in seeking knowledge and to be wary there of the immature. The immature in age, in intellect or religion, which is people who don't base their actions, their decisions, their speech on principles. Right? Such as what? People who like to gossip about scholars and scholarship, etc. The chatterers, or people who like to argue and debate. Who spread, all the latest news. People who are on sort of the Muslim. It used to be the Muslim blogosphere, then the Muslim Twitter sphere, and the online Muslim controversies. That's a danger, right? And the critics, and there's all kinds of people. So be careful in seeking knowledge. Company is important, but beware of the immature. And then he says, وَآفَةُ الصُّحْبَةِ الْإِغْتِرَارُ وَالْفُضُولُ. And the danger of keeping company, meaning keeping the company of scholars and the people of the spiritual path, is that one can become deluded and one can fall into fudul, the things that are bereft of benefit. Delusion, how? That the purpose of keeping the company of the scholars and the people of the spiritual path is that one aspire to become like them, to strive as they strive, and to be inspired by them to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The danger is that one can just hang out, right? That you don't try to be like the scholars, to emulate them, to consult them, to take them as exemplars, so that one makes the life choices that they have made, the sacrifices that apply in our lives from their example, but rather just what do? You go hang out with the sheikh types, or you go hang out with the religious, or you dress up like them, or you get the same kind of sibha and so on, but you don't actually make the dhikr, right? That kind of stuff. And then he says, وَآفَةُ تَرْكِ الرُّخَص وَالتَّأْوِيلَاتِ الشَّفَقَةُ عَلَى النَّفْسِ. The danger of leaving dispensations and far-fetched far-fetched religious interpretations is that one can become sorry for one's own self, right? That I'm trying to do the hardest thing, but then you feel sorry for yourself. You have either ingratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you feel overwhelmed, or you become just you like moaning and groaning, right? And the whole point of the spiritual path is to direct one's attention, one's concern and focus to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sometimes, if you're finding something difficult, it may be a situation where taking an easier opinion, but that is valid and sound, may facilitate for one not to have this sort of self-pity. But how does one do that? One should consult, right? That, for example, at work, if you have a very busy afternoon schedule and you find it difficult to get all the sunnah and the nafl in, but you do it and then you feel sorry for yourself and you find it very heavy, but you feel conflicted that, well, I don't like leaving my voluntary prayers above and beyond the sunnah, then consult. And that's one of the ways to get out of self-pity, is to act on the basis of consulting. And then he says, وَآفَةُ ضَبْطِ الْأَوْقَاتِ التَّكَاسُلِ. And the danger of regulating one's times through spiritual routines is that one can become lazy. One can start procrastinating. And one of the ways one deals with that is to renew one's intention, to seek to remain connected with the company and the reminders that inspire one to hold fast to routines. Right? Also, dua helps. And then he says, وَآفَةُ اتِّهَامِ النَّفْسِ الْأُنْسُ بِحَسَبِ أَحْوَالِهَا واستقامتها. Right? And the danger of being ever reproachful of oneself is that one finds comfort in its good, بِحُسْنِ أَحْوَالِهَا. That one can start noticing one's own good qualities. And that once you start restraining yourself, you say, look, I achieved this and I achieved this. Right? And he says that there are 5 ways to deal with these potential dangers. Right? There are 5 ways to deal with these dangers on the spiritual path, and we look at that in the next session, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was brought to you by Seeker's Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Visit seekersguidance.org to access reliable Islamic knowledge taught by qualified teachers. We offer a wide range of courses, podcasts, articles, and a world-class answer service. Support us in spreading free, reliable Islamic knowledge to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Visit seekersguidance.org/donate and make a small monthly commitment today. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a similar reward." So don't forget to share this podcast and spread prophetic guidance.